On a blazing summer day, a young Won Hyuk led Seo Woo somewhere she never could have imagined. With a bandage on his bruised cheek, he assured her that no one would find them here. He led her to an old, overgrown military bunker, a cool and dark place completely cut off from the world outside. He asked her to just stay with him, but as a chill settled over her skin, Seo Woo bolted. She ran because she was scared, not of the bunker, but of the mysterious, dark feeling she got from the boy himself. Rain hammers against the school windows as students complain about the gloomy monsoon season. A group of girls starts gossiping about the creepy military barrier nearby, which is finally being torn down. They morbidly joke about it being haunted, but Lee Seo-woo, who's been quiet, snaps at them to stop. A friend playfully teases her about ghosts, slapping the desk for effect. The sudden sound makes Seo-woo flinch so hard she tumbles right out of her chair, shocking her classmates with the extreme reaction. The rain pours down, trapping everyone inside the dreary classroom. As Lee Seo-woo tries to disappear into her desk, her classmates whisper just behind her. They call her gloomy, a ghost, and an attention seeker who's nothing but a nuisance. Seo-woo clenches her hands, thinking she'll never get used to this kind of treatment. Or this place. Outside the window sits an old military barrier, a useless eyesore from the nearby front lines that's finally being torn down, another ugly part of a world she just can't stand. Seo-woo finally gets home, but the welcome is ice cold. Her uncle mutters that she should have stayed out later, and her aunt just shoos her away into her room. But there's no escape. Her cousin, Ji-won, immediately confronts her, shoving her from behind. Ji-won complains loudly to her mom about how cramped the room is and whines that Seo-woo will be around even more during summer break. Despite her mom's protests, Ji-won declares they should just tell the other relatives they can't take her anymore, leaving Seo-woo to silently take it all in. As Ji-won's shouting echoes through the house, Seo-woo stands frozen in the hallway, having heard every word. Her aunt quickly tries to smooth things over, making excuses for Ji-won's harshness. To keep the peace, the aunt asks Seo-woo to stay at a friend's house for the night, claiming it's for her own good. She hands Seo-woo a small bag, but the gesture feels empty. The bitter truth is, Seo-woo has no friends. Peeking inside the bag, she finds some cash and a few other small items that leave her utterly speechless. With nowhere to go, Seo-woo wanders aimlessly into the pouring rain. She finds herself on a remote overpass, a place rumored to be for those with nothing left to lose. But she dismisses the thought, it's not even that high. It's a lonely spot, the kind of place the other girls at school would never bother to find. As the storm intensifies, she desperately needs to get out of the downpour. That's when she spots a hatch on the ground. It's a bunker, stirring up bad memories, but with the rain this bad, she has no choice. Faced with the relentless storm, Seo-woo knew she had no choice. She pried open the heavy hatch and climbed down into the darkness, using her phone's light to guide her. The bunker was a mess, a filthy corridor stretching into nothingness. Luckily, she found a bathroom with running water and washed her soaked clothes. Sinking onto a dusty couch, a grim thought crossed her mind. She hoped this wouldn't become her new home. To escape her despair, she lay down, deciding it was better to just sleep and pray for a better someday. As she slept, Seo-woo dreamt of finally finding a home where someone actually wanted her. A loud slam suddenly echoed through the bunker, jolting her awake. Her eyes shot open. Staring up, she saw the hatch was wide open, rain pouring in from the storm outside. Panic flooded her senses. She was certain she had closed it. It couldn't have just opened on its own. A terrifying thought gripped her. If she didn't open it, that meant someone else had come in. She wasn't alone in the dark anymore. The bunker lights suddenly flickered on, and Seo-woo's entire body went cold. There, at the end of the long corridor, a figure emerged from the shadows. It was Ju Won-hyuk, the school's most feared student, his uniform covered in dark stains. Pure terror seized her. She let out a scream and scrambled back towards the stairs, desperate to escape. But he was impossibly fast, landing in front of her and blocking the path. Before she could process what was happening, his hand reached up and cranked the heavy hatch shut, sealing them in together. With a deafening slam, the heavy hatch crashed shut, plunging them into suffocating darkness. Seo-woo stared in horror. Realizing this was the day her life changed, the day she was trapped. And what made it 1,000 times worse was who trapped her, Ju Won-hyuk. Her mind raced back to all the warnings she'd received. Her aunt had told her to never go near him. The entire school hated him, leaving him completely alone. Now, locked in a concrete prison, she faced the one person she had ever tried to reach out to. Her eyes slowly opened, and she barely breathed out his name. Ju Won-hyuk stood over her, his face bruised and his uniform covered in dark, chilling stains. He reached past her, his hand grabbing the hatch wheel and cranking it shut, sealing them inside once more. He confirmed her identity, making her flinch back in absolute terror. Anyone would be scared by the sight, but because it was him, the boy with the terrifying reputation, her fear skyrocketed. The awful label everyone attached to him was all she could think about. Her mind flashed back to when she was 10. After her parents passed away, she was forced to move in with her aunt and transferred to the same class as her cousin, Jiwon. In this unfamiliar place, she clung to Jiwon, the only person she knew. But weighed down by everything that had happened, Seo-woo couldn't truly fit in, always lingering on the outskirts of her cousin's friend group. Then one day, a woman's scream from outside startled her. Rushing to the window, her eyes didn't find the source, but instead locked onto a lonely boy below. She remembered seeing him back then, a boy her own age, always sitting outside the neighboring house. He'd just be there, head hung low in defeat. For the lonely Seo-woo, watching him became a strange daily comfort. His presence made her feel a little less isolated in her new home. Years later, she finally asked her cousin about him. Jiwon knew exactly who he was, Ju Won-hyuk, but her casual tone quickly turned serious. She warned Seo-woo to stay away from him, delivering the chilling reason that explained everything. He was the son of a killer. Jiwon explained that Won-hyuk's family moved to escape the scandal, but the story was too big to hide. That scream Seo-woo once heard was likely his mother, who had witnessed the terrible event firsthand. After complaining about her new neighbors, Jiwon gave a stern warning, stay away from him. The memory then flashed to a group of kids vandalizing Won-hyuk's gate, scrawling hateful words and taunts before running off. Young Seo-woo could only stare in shock at the cruel messages left behind for the boy next door. The memory continued. Seo-woo watched as young Won-hyuk tried to scrub the hateful words from his family's gate. When he finally noticed her, he glared, his face bruised, and angrily told her to get lost. The chilling warning from her cousin flooded Seo-woo's mind. He's the son of a killer. Paralyzed by fear, she couldn't muster the courage to speak. Instead, she turned and fled. His reputation at school was just as bleak, a record filled with unexcused absences and early departures from a place that offered him no peace. At school, Won-hyuk was an easy target. He'd get cornered for forgetting supplies or even his indoor shoes, walking into class in just his socks. But these were just excuses. The real reason everyone ostracized him was far darker. He was branded as a killer's son, and that alone was enough to make him an outcast. But Seo-woo saw something else. Seeing him slumped over his desk, he looked exactly like that defeated little boy from next door. Despite all the terrifying warnings, she just couldn't stop thinking about him. As her friends chatted and walked ahead, Seo-woo used a loose shoelace as an excuse to linger behind. When she finished, the hallway was empty and silent. Her friends were long gone. But her attention was drawn to Won-hyuk's classroom, where the door was mysteriously left ajar. Peeking inside, she found the room deserted except for a single broom propped against the lockers. She didn't know why, but she felt compelled to intervene. Stepping inside, Seo-woo decided to meddle, grabbing the broom with newfound resolve. As Seo-woo swept the floor, she couldn't shake the question of why she was truly helping. In a clumsy moment, she tripped and fell backward. Suddenly, strong arms caught her. It was Won-hyuk. But something was seriously wrong. He looked sick, gasping for air, and clearly in pain. Seo-woo knew she had to get help immediately. Just as she tried to run for the nurse's office, he grabbed her, his grip desperate and unyielding. Trapped and confused, she could only stare as he refused to let her go. Seo-woo begged Won-hyuk to let go so she could get a teacher, shocked by his surprising strength. But he refused, burying his face in her shoulder and pleading for her not to leave. For the first time, she was close enough to feel him trembling. Something inside her shifted. Without thinking, her hand moved to his back, patting him gently in a comforting gesture. As she held him in the silent classroom, she felt his shaking slowly calm. It seemed to be working. He was finally starting to settle down. As Seo-woo held him, Won-hyuk's intense shaking finally stopped. The immediate danger was over. In that quiet classroom, everything clicked for Seo-woo. If she hadn't stepped in, he would have been trapped in that dark place all by himself. This was why she could finally understand him. She no longer saw the son of a killer, but a scared kid forced to live in the shadows, just like her. He slowly pulled away, his face flushed but calm. For the first time, they weren't enemies, just two lonely people. After Seo-woo's comforting gesture, Won-hyuk's intense shaking finally stopped. He slowly pulled away from her shoulder, his expression now calm and the crisis averted. But then he just disappeared. For the next 3 days, his seat in class was completely empty. The silence was deafening. Walking home, Seo-woo found her feet stopping on their own. She couldn't get him out of her head, constantly wondering why he hadn't shown up. After their moment in the classroom, His sudden absence felt heavy, and she couldn't just ignore it. She was officially worried. As Sia Woo wandered through the neighborhood, lost in thought, she stumbled upon a familiar face. There was Won Hyuk, looking worn out as he cleaned a rusty gate. But the second he saw her, he bolted. He slammed the heavy gate shut, the loud bang echoing her confusion. Was he seriously avoiding her? It felt just like when he disappeared from school. Dejected, she turned to go, but then she saw it, a small eraser he dropped. She called out his name, holding up her own eraser and telling him it worked better. Sia Woo placed her own eraser on the brick pillar, offering to lend it to him. But her offer came with a condition. He had to come to school the next day to return it. Won Hyuk was completely caught off guard by her straightforward kindness. After a moment of hesitation, his hand shot out and quickly snatched the small object. He didn't say a word, but her message got through loud and clear. Just as she had hoped, Won Hyuk finally showed up for class the following day. After Sia Woo's small gesture, their childhood connection deepened. Won Hyuk started following her, his usual tough exterior softening whenever she was near. They spent their days playing on the very same stairs where she once watched him in secret, and he was no longer the lonely boy with his head down. But this peaceful time was shattered in an instant. When that incident happened, all Sia Woo could do was run. Gripped by terror, she abandoned the boy now known as the killer's son, leaving him to face the darkness alone. Sia Woo wakes up in the dim light of the bunker, her head throbbing. She spots Won Hyuk heading towards the stairs and immediately tries to follow, her mind flashing back to when she begged him not to leave her. But as she reaches for him, he suddenly shoves her away. The push sends her stumbling back, and her phone flies out of her hand, shattering against the concrete. Before she can process what happened, Won Hyuk warns her that it's dangerous outside. He tells her to stay put, leaving her shocked and confused. Her mind races. Why won't he let her leave? Then her eyes lock onto the dark red stains covering his clothes and the blade clutched in his hand. A terrible thought freezes her in place. As Won Hyuk takes a heavy step forward, his bruised face comes into the light. She's terrified he's here for revenge because she abandoned him. But looking at his confused expression, she realizes he's just as lost as she is. Her best chance is to stay calm and not provoke the killer's son any further. Sia Woo comes up with a desperate plan. She decides to act exactly like she did when they were kids, hoping the old connection will make him feel safe and listen to her. This is her only shot to get out. Stepping forward, she suddenly grabs his arm and her breath catches. He's bleeding. A deep gash runs along his arm, and his shirt is stained red. Her facade cracks, replaced by genuine concern as she asks if he's okay. She tells him to go wash up while she looks for medical supplies. Her friendly act immediately backfires. Won Hyuk shoves her aside, harshly telling her to get out. Sia Woo's heart drops, thinking her plan failed, but he just points at the door. He was telling her to move so he could use the bathroom she just mentioned. Mortified, she stumbles out of his way. As he steps inside, he glances back, warning her not to go outside because of the rain. The door clicks shut, leaving Sia Woo standing there, completely baffled by his confusing behavior. What is he playing at? Sia Woo is reeling from the mixed signals. If he wasn't going to stop her, why warn her about the rain? Shaking off the confusion, she decides this is her one and only chance. While Won Hyuk is busy washing up, she'll grab her phone and get out. She creeps down the stairs, her eyes scanning the dirty floor where she dropped her stuff. But when she gets to the spot where she knows she left her phone, it's gone. A splash echoes from behind the closed door as a cold dread washes over her. Her search is cut short when a voice calls out from behind the bathroom door. But he doesn't use her name. He calls her Nam Sia Woo. Sia Woo freezes, completely baffled. The voice calls out again, more insistent this time, warning her that if she doesn't answer, he's coming out just as he is. Inside, Won Hyuk stands over the sink, his bare torso covered in dark bruises and scrapes. He's clearly been through a brutal struggle, but the biggest question is, who does he think she is? A voice cuts through the silence from behind the closed bathroom door. It's Won Hyuk, but he doesn't use her name. He calls her Nam Sia Woo, warning that if she doesn't answer, he's coming out just as he is. Sia Woo freezes, wondering if he's just checking to see if she's still there. Suddenly, a loud splash echoes from inside. Her blood runs cold. That wasn't just water. It was the sound of her phone being destroyed. Her only lifeline is gone. As the panic sets in, the door clicks open. Won Hyuk calmly asks for something to wear. Sia Woo stammers that she'll find something, but her mind is already racing. This is her chance. Believing he won't follow her while undressed, she abandons any pretense of helping and bolts up the stairs toward the main entrance. She reaches the massive steel door and throws all her weight into turning the heavy will lock. It groans but doesn't move an inch. A sickening clink confirms her worst fear. The door is sealed shut from the outside. She's completely trapped. Her hope shatters as she throws her weight against the heavy steel valve. It's completely stuck. Desperate, she wonders if the old bunker has just rusted shut. Suddenly, a shadow looms over her. Seo-woo whips around to find Won Hyuk standing right there, now wearing pants. He coolly states he figured it'd be faster to look for a towel himself. Seo-woo freezes, trapped. Her escape plan has failed spectacularly, and now she's face-to-face with the guy she just tried to leave behind in the dark. Seo-woo freezes, her mind racing. Won Hyuk is standing right behind her, wearing nothing but pants. This isn't the quiet classmate she knew. This is something else entirely. Her body won't move. As water drips from his hair, his arm reaches over her shoulder, grabbing the massive steel wheel. He throws his weight into it, straining to force it open, but it's no use. He grits his teeth, confirming that it won't open. Then, without warning, he grabs her by the arm and yanks her away from the sealed door, pulling her deeper into the bunker. Won Hyuk drags her down the stairs, but she trips and tumbles backward. In a flash, he catches her, his body pressing her against the cold steps. He leans in close, water dripping from his hair onto her face, and reminds her that he said the stairs were dangerous. Completely flustered, Seo-woo can only stutter about the towel he needed. He simply agrees, then releases her and walks away. She's left sitting on the stairs, watching him go, her mind completely blank after the intense encounter. Finally alone, Seo-woo lets out a huge sigh of relief. But as she looks down the stairs, her eyes lock onto something familiar, her phone, lying right there on the concrete. A confusing thought hits her. If her phone is here, then what exactly did Won Hyuk throw into the water earlier? Before she can process it, he calls back, asking why she's lagging behind. Stuttering, she says she's coming. As she follows, he stops at a door and turns, telling her there's one thing he absolutely has to say. The one thing Won Hyuk had to say was that the door she was near wouldn't open. He calmly explains it locks if closed too hard, telling her not to waste her energy. As he walks away, a chilling realization hits Seo-woo. He knows this place suspiciously well. A memory flashes back of him warning her not to go out. Her blood runs cold as a terrifying thought forms in her mind. Did he lure her in here on purpose, knowing they would be trapped together? Her fear spikes, and she clutches her arm, completely horrified. Her heart hammers against her ribs as she snatches her phone, a spark of hope flickering in the dark. While she fumbles with her potential escape, Won Hyuk is in another room, aggressively washing a shirt stained with unsettling red marks. Back in the hallway, Seo-woo's hope shatters. She stares at the screen in disbelief, her hands trembling. The phone is useless, no signal, and the battery is about to die. A chilling wave of pure despair washes over her. She is completely, utterly trapped with him. Panic sets in as Seo-woo realizes the horrifying truth. Being underground is why her phone has no signal. The bunker is completely isolated, meaning no one will find her. Her mind flashes back to Won Hyuk's strange warning not to go out, and the terrifying pieces click into place. This was a trap. Overwhelmed, she sinks to the dirty floor, wondering why he would lock her up like this. Meanwhile, in another room, Won Hyuk furiously dunks a heavily stained shirt into a bucket of water, his face a mask of cold intensity. In the bunker's grimy bathroom, Won Hyuk rinses a sharp-looking knife, the water washing away dark red stains. A disturbing memory hits him hard, his hand, covered in the same substance, clutching the blade. His face was marked, his mind haunted by a single, agonizing question. Why? Snapping back to the present, he clicks the clean blade shut and shoves it deep into his pocket. His face is a mask of indifference as he turns to leave the room, his chilling preparations complete, leaving Seo-woo completely in the dark. A devastating memory hits Seo-woo. She recalls a younger Won Hyuk, bruised and battered, his hand stained with red. She had watched from the shadows, frozen, as he stood alone before a dark, barred gate. Snapping back to the present, a horrifying thought takes root. She believes she knows why he trapped her here. She abandoned him when he needed help the most, and now, years later, she is convinced this is his long-awaited revenge. This was no accident. He sealed her in here on purpose. Convinced this is his long-awaited revenge, Seo-woo's panic spikes as she stares at the broken door. Just then, Won Hyuk appears, coolly informing her not to waste her energy because the door jams shut easily. Suspicious, she asks how long he's been coming to this place. He casually admits it's been a few years. A light bulb goes off in Seo-woo's head. If he's been here before, he must know how to get out. Her fear morphs into steely resolve. She will uncover his secret escape route. Won Hyuk leads her down a long, desolate corridor, telling her there's nothing to see. Playing dumb, Seo-woo claims she just doesn't know her way around. Internally, her plan is set. She'll act like her old self to get what she wants, since he's her only key out of here. As they walk, she tests a random door, but the handle won't budge. One Hyok flatly informs her it's locked. Her eyes narrow as she notices the door is a different color.
Why?
Her gaze then drops to his feet, a new suspicion taking root. One Hyok flicks a nearby switch, and the strange door clicks open. It reveals a dusty treatment room, leaving Seo Woo completely stunned. While she stands frozen, he walks over to a medical cart and pulls out a fresh bandage. A cold realization washes over her. She absolutely has to find a way to open the main door and get out. He sits down, silently tending to an injury on his hand. Seo Woo takes a seat beside him, the tense silence broken only by the rustle of the wrapper. Her mind is racing. Seo Woo breaks the silence, asking if his hand hurts. Internally, she decides to play the concerned card, figuring it's her best shot at getting information. Pointing out that his wounds look pretty bad, she asks how he got them. One Hyok doesn't answer, simply yanking the bandage tighter around his hand. Realizing she pushed too hard, Seo Woo quickly backpedals, telling him he doesn't have to say. Changing tactics, she notes how hard it must be to wrap it himself and offers to help. One Hyok pauses, looking up at her, silently considering her unexpected kindness. One Hyok rejects her offer, telling her it's fine and that she'll get some on her. Seo Woo is taken aback, recalling how sensitive he's been about the sight of injuries for a while now. Not deterred, she notes the bandage is too long and turns to the medical cart to find scissors. As she rummages through a drawer, a hand suddenly grabs her ankle. One Hyok pulls her back, forcing her to sit down. He calmly points to her foot, telling her she has a piece of glass stuck in it. Seo Woo flinches, shocked to see the shard of glass embedded in her foot. One Hyok warns her to stay still, telling her it'll only get worse if she moves. Before she can process what's happening, he leans down and carefully pulls the glass from her skin. He then warns her about the broken glass covering the hallway floor, advising her to wear shoes. As he presses a bandage onto the small wound, Seo Woo can only stare in stunned silence, completely baffled by this unexpected display of care. Feeling the awkward tension, Seo Woo stammers that she's going to sleep now. She quickly turns and heads to her corner of the bunker, leaving One Hyok sitting alone and staring silently at his injured hands. Lying on the couch, Seo Woo lets out a huff, unable to relax. Her eyes drift over to One Hyok, who's now slumped against a wall, seemingly passed out on the cold floor. Still processing his earlier kindness, she finds herself wondering if he's actually asleep or if he is just pretending. Lying on the couch, Seo Woo can't stop replaying his actions. He helped her, and she's completely confused. She had always believed he hated her, but now she has no idea what he's actually thinking. The day's tension finally catches up, and her eyelids grow heavy. She fights to stay awake, telling herself she can't trust him. She still doesn't know what he's capable of. But exhaustion wins the battle. As she finally drifts off, One Hyok rises and silently stands over her, his expression unreadable as he watches her sleep. As Seo Woo sleeps, One Hyok sits down on the floor beside her. He watches her for a moment before noticing her hand hanging limply off the side of the couch. Gently, he reaches out and takes it in his own. A sudden memory flashes through his mind of two smaller, hands clasped together from their childhood. Staring at her sleeping face, he holds her hand tighter, quietly admitting to himself that she hasn't changed at all. He recognizes her from a time long past. As One Hyok sleeps, a dark memory pulls him under. He's a child again, his name echoing in the darkness. He looks up to see his mother, whose chilling words tell him he's the spitting image of his father. Her grip on his shoulder tightens as she delivers a terrifying warning. If any other part of him grows to resemble that man, she will take matters into her own hands. The horrifying vision is cut short as One Hyok jolts awake with a sharp gasp, his past haunting him even in the bunker. Gasping for air, One Hyok is trapped in the clutches of his nightmare. The suffocating pressure from his mother's hand feels terrifyingly real. He jolts awake, his own hand flying to his neck as he fights for breath. The ghost of the dream leaves him shaken and drenched in a cold sweat. His gaze falls on Seo Woo, sleeping peacefully nearby. Despite his own turmoil, he quietly gets up, takes a blanket, and gently drapes it over her. He then settles on the floor, watching over her in the dim light of the bunker. As Seo Woo sleeps, One Hyok quietly keeps watch over her. His eyes land on her bag resting on the floor beside the couch. Reaching over, he gently rummages through her belongings and pulls out a tube of ointment. Just then, a sharp pain shoots through his bandaged arm, making him wince. Without a second thought, he opens the tube and carefully applies the cream to his own injuries. The silent bunker offers a moment of relief as he tends to his wounds under the dim light, borrowing a bit of her care for himself. The sound of rain lashing against the window greets the new day. Inside the bunker, Seo-woo stirs, slowly waking from an uneasy sleep. A splitting headache immediately attacks her, and she groans, clutching her forehead in frustration. Her vision is a complete blur as she sits up. Just then, her hand brushes against her glasses, placed carefully beside her on the floor. Confused, she picks them up, wondering how they ended up there while she was asleep. The small, unexpected gesture leaves her puzzled in the dim, concrete room. Back at Seo-woo's home, the atmosphere is ice cold. Her cousin, Ji-won, watches as Seo-woo's aunt shoves her belongings into a bag. The aunt tells Ji-won to relax, claiming Seo-woo is just staying with a friend. But Ji-won isn't buying it. She demands to know why her mom is packing all of Seo-woo's things, as if she's leaving for good. The aunt just snaps back with a weak excuse, saying she'll need her stuff. It's painfully obvious she just wants Seo-woo gone for good. Ji-won eyes her mother with deep suspicion. The aunt, putting on a show of concern, decides she should probably pack some fruit. But Ji-won sees right through the act, knowing her mom is secretly relieved Seo-woo is gone. While packing, the aunt carelessly drops a few small, foil-wrapped items into the bag. Ji-won remembers her cousin was headed to Won Hyok's place. She finds the dark entrance to the bunker, but freezes. The fear of getting dragged into trouble again makes her hesitate, torn between helping her cousin and protecting herself. Ji-won's guilt crashes down on her. She admits to herself that she practically pushed Seo-woo towards Won Hyok's house just to get her out of the way. Meanwhile, Nam Seo-woo tries calling Seo-woo, but her phone is off. He finds it deeply suspicious, wondering why she would be unreachable. As he wanders through the pouring rain, his worry intensifies. He has a gut feeling that something is seriously wrong. Back in the cold, dark bunker, Seo-woo stirs, completely unaware that her friend is desperately looking for her. Seo-woo slowly wakes up, groggy and disoriented. She rubs her eyes, wondering if it's morning yet. As her vision clears, she sits bolt upright, realizing she's completely alone. A wave of panic starts to creep in as she scans the empty room, questioning where Won Hyok could have gone. Her head whips toward the heavy steel door as a faint metallic clank echoes through the space. Getting to her feet, she surveys the grim, unchanging bunker. It's the same cold, underground prison, and the walls suddenly feel like they're closing in. Her voice trembles as she calls out for Won Hyok, but the only response is dead silence. Fueled by a growing panic, Seo-woo begins a frantic search of their concrete prison. Her shadow stretches and twists along the walls as she darts from room to room. She rushes past rows of supply shelves and overturned desks, her heart pounding in her chest. Every empty corner makes her more desperate. With a final surge of adrenaline, she flings open a heavy set of doors, her eyes wide with fear, dreading what she might, or might not, find. The heavy doors swing open to reveal another trashed, empty room. Her hope sinks as she confirms he isn't here either. A cold dread washes over her. Where could he possibly have gone? There's nowhere to go. She stands at the edge of a long, decaying corridor that disappears into the darkness. Pipes snake across the cracked ceiling, and debris litters the floor. The sheer emptiness of the bunker is terrifying, and being completely alone in this underground tomb sends a shiver down her spine. At the breakfast table, Ji-won's family eats without her. Her uncle sneers that he slept well for once, glad the moody kid wasn't moping around the house. He cruelly tells his wife that Ji-won should just stay at her friend's place more often. Hearing this, his daughter has had enough. She drops her utensils, her appetite completely gone. Ignoring her mother's protests, she declares she isn't hungry and storms out of the house. As she leaves, her mother calls out a warning about the heavy rain, but the front door slams shut. Out in the pouring rain, Ji-won walks with a grim purpose, her mind made up. Meanwhile, deep underground, Seo-woo's desperate search for Won Hyok ends in failure. She collapses onto a dusty couch, overwhelmed by a chilling silence. He's just gone. She wonders if he somehow abandoned her, but the main door is still broken. How could he have possibly escaped? Her phone has no signal, severing her last connection to the outside world. Trapped and completely alone, the true horror of her situation finally sinks in. Curled up in the dark, Seo-woo's mind drifts to the outside world. Her neighborhood, her school, her house, they're all so close. For a moment, she feels a spark of hope. Surely, once they realize she's gone, they'll find her. But that hope quickly dies. A bitter memory surfaces. Her family and classmates always treated her like she was invisible, even when she was right beside them. The crushing truth hits her. Proximity means nothing. Who would even bother to look for her? If Won Hyok doesn't come back, this place will be her tomb. Seo-woo sinks into total despair, convinced she'll die alone in this bunker. Dark memories of being an outcast at school and invisible at home flood her mind. But a sudden dripping sound snaps her out of it. Her eyes fly open to see a pair of wet shoes on the floor. Looking up, she sees him, Ju Won-hyuk. He's back, holding a soggy cardboard box. Stunned, Seo-woo jumps up from the couch, calling his name in sheer disbelief. He just stands there, watching her with a blank, unreadable expression. The soggy box hits the ground with a wet thud. Before Seo-woo can react, Won-hyuk closes the distance between them. He places his hand on her forehead, and she reels back in surprise. He coolly informs her that she doesn't have a fever. Overwhelmed and confused by this strange gesture, Seo-woo can only stare. Then, he suddenly pulls her into a tight embrace. As they stand frozen in the dark bunker, the scene shifts. Back at school, the homeroom teacher scans the room, a confused look on her face. Someone's desk is empty. The homeroom teacher scans the class, her eyes landing on Seo-woo's empty desk. Wondering where she is, the teacher decides to make a call. But then she spots Seo-woo's cousin, Ji-won, and asks her instead. The classroom starts buzzing with whispers. Students point out that Ji-won ignores her cousins so much, they forget they're even related. Looking annoyed, Ji-won coldly tells the teacher she doesn't know anything, claiming they barely see each other. The teacher decides to step out and make a call herself, telling the class to study quietly. The classroom door clicks shut, and the whispers begin. Two students start gossiping about Won-hyuk, the infamous killer son from the next class who's absent again. His friend scoffs, saying Won-hyuk always skips and that even his teachers have given up. But the real kicker? Seo-woo is also missing on the exact same day. The students start connecting the dots, hinting at some mysterious event between the two back in elementary school. They laugh, clueless that as they spread rumors, Seo-woo and Won-hyuk are trapped together. Seo-woo's eyes flutter open, her head still fuzzy. She sits up with a jolt as Won-hyuk asks if she's awake. Her heart pounds when she notices her shirt is undone, and she panics. But Won-hyuk simply tells her she did it herself. As she nervously adjusts her collar, her mind races. He came back, but the fear of him leaving her alone again is terrifying. She never wants to experience that feeling again. In a surprising moment of clarity, she realizes she'd rather be trapped in here with him than be left by herself. Seo-woo cautiously asks Won-hyuk what he's looking for as he rummages through a box. He surprises her by stating he's searching for her stuff. Pulling out a small toiletries bag, he tells her to use the supplies inside. Flustered, Seo-woo insists she brought her own things, even though they carry bad memories. But Won-hyuk sees right through her. He asks if she doesn't hate using them, admitting he wouldn't want to in her shoes. Stunned by his perception, Seo-woo immediately demands to know if he went through her bag. Won-hyuk brushes off her accusation, simply stating that it just happened. Defeated, Seo-woo admits her old toiletries were from her aunt, confirming his suspicions. She reluctantly accepts the new items he holds out, whispering a quiet thank you. But his unexpected kindness is confusing her. She wonders why he sounds like he genuinely cares. She thought he locked her up for revenge, just like he did years ago. Frustrated by the mixed signals, she confronts him directly, demanding to know the real reason he is keeping her trapped with him now. Seo-woo thinks back on her time in the bunker. She realizes she's been avoiding any questions that might set Won-hyuk off. She desperately wanted to know why he told her not to leave or how he got hurt, but she was too afraid he might turn aggressive. But now, something feels different. He doesn't seem so threatening anymore. Gathering her courage, she calls his name. As his hand tightens around a small device, she finally asks why he stopped her from leaving that day. Won-hyuk just stares back, saying nothing. Won-hyuk finally explains. He claims he stopped her from leaving because the bunker door automatically locks if slammed shut. Seo-woo is floored. Is he really saying they got trapped together by accident? She doesn't buy it, recalling how he was nowhere to be found when she looked for him before. She insists that even if the door did lock by mistake, he must know how to get out. Suddenly, Won-hyuk shoots to his feet, causing Seo-woo to flinch. Panicked, she thinks she's pushed him too far and immediately regrets questioning him. But instead of getting angry, Won-hyuk just turns his back on her, completely shutting down the conversation. He states that he didn't go outside, leaving Seo-woo utterly confused. If he never left, then where was he when she was looking for him? He ignores her questions and walks over to a crate, pulling out some canned food. He tells her to eat if she's hungry, but this only makes her more suspicious. She had searched everywhere. How is it possible they never crossed paths once? Something isn't adding up. Seo-woo's suspicion skyrockets. Food in a bunker that's been abandoned for ages? It makes absolutely no sense. She decides she has to check the kitchen the first chance she gets. The scene cuts to a flashback of that stormy day. The massive bunker door creaks open just enough for someone to slip inside before it thuds shut. Back inside, a rain-soaked Seo-woo is drying her hair when she spots Won-hyuk. He's slumped against a doorframe, looking totally exhausted and hurt. She freezes, quietly wondering if he's asleep. Xiaowu cautiously approaches Won Hyuk, who looks completely drained. She notes how uncomfortable he looks slumped against the door. Despite her fear, she gently helps him lie down on the nearby cot. Thinking he's finally unconscious, she sees her opening. This is her chance to investigate the bunker and find out where that mysterious food came from. She quietly slips away, determined to get some answers. But the moment she's gone, Won Hyuk's eyes slowly open. He wasn't asleep at all. He was just pretending. Won Hyuk is plunged into a dark memory, haunted by his father's chilling words. The voice warns that he looks exactly like his dad, ordering him to forget everything if he wants to live. The memory is a brutal command. Don't remember a thing. He recalls being forcefully held down, the trauma replaying in his mind. Snapping back to the present, Won Hyuk clutches his arm, shaking from the ordeal. He looks up with dazed eyes, mistaking Xiaowu for someone else as he weakly calls out the name Nam Xiaowu. Xiaowu sneaks into the bunker's storage room, searching for answers. She grabs a can from a dusty shelf and her blood runs cold when she sees the expiration date. It's ancient. This confirms all the supplies here long expired. But she distinctly remembers the food Won Hyuk gave her was perfectly fresh. Startled, she drops the can and it rolls across the concrete floor. Did he actually leave to get it? But that's impossible. She knows the bunker door is sealed shut. The question hangs in the air, just how did he get out? Xiaowu turns her attention to a mysterious locked door. A wild idea sparks in her mind. What if the blue room wasn't a room, but another exit? Then, a crucial memory surfaces. Won Hyuk's feet were completely wet when he returned with the food. Could there be water on the other side of this door? Driven by this new theory, she presses her ear against the cold steel. She strains to listen, thinking she can hear the faint sound of water. Suddenly, a loud metallic clunk from the lock makes her jump back in sheer panic. Suddenly, a loud metallic clunk echoes from the main entrance, not the door she's touching. Xiaowu freezes, her mind racing. Who could be out there? But the question is instantly replaced by a surge of overwhelming hope. It doesn't matter who it is. All that matters is that the way out might finally be open. A teary-eyed smile breaks across her face as she realizes this is it, her chance to finally escape this underground prison. Fueled by a surge of hope, Xiaowu bolts towards the entrance. She's finally getting out. But before she can take another step, a hand lunges from the darkness, yanking her back hard. It's Won Hyuk. He clamps his hand over her mouth, trapping her against his chest and stifling her scream. His body trembles with raw fear as he begs her not to go out. In that single, horrifying moment, Xiaowu's hope shatters into ice. Whoever is outside, they aren't here to save them. He begged her not to go outside, his voice trembling with a fear so raw it sent a chill down her spine. Xiaowu was frozen solid, completely unable to move. This gut-wrenching terror was on a whole different level from anything she had ever felt before. As she looked at Won Hyuk huddled over her, she finally understood the truth. He wasn't trying to keep her trapped in here with him. He was desperately trying to keep the real monster on the other side of that door out. A loud metallic clang echoes through the bunker as the heavy lock begins to turn. Won Hyuk knows they're about to leave. This is the moment. He has to keep her quiet. Fueled by a desperate need for freedom, Xiaowu sinks her teeth into his hand, trying to scream. He flinches from the sharp sting, but the pain only hardens his resolve. Ignoring the blood now dripping from his fingers, he slams his palm back over her mouth, silencing her completely. His terrified eyes beg her to understand. Their survival depends on her silence. His eyes are wild with panic. Won Hyuk grips her face, demanding she spit out the blood from biting him. Xiaowu is stunned. This isn't the guy she knows. Even trapped down here, he was never threatening. He was gentle, always looking out for her. But just as quickly as the aggression appeared, it drains away. Won Hyuk collapses to his knees, his entire body shaking. He whispers that he's scared, revealing his tough act was just a desperate front to protect them from the real monster on the other side. Xiaowu's voice is small, but her words cut through his panic. She begs him not to be scary. In that moment, an old memory flashes through his mind. A younger, more vulnerable Xiaowu, looking lost and alone. The sight snaps him back to the present. He gently pulls her into a protective embrace, his entire demeanor softening. He quietly vows that he won't be scary anymore. His only condition remains the same. He looks at her with pleading eyes, begging her to just stay put and not go outside. Xiaowu is completely bewildered. In all their time trapped together, Won Hyuk has only ever shown her a blank, unreadable face. Seeing his raw terror now makes her question everything. She wonders why he's going to such extremes and what he's so desperately afraid of. A hazy memory of them as children flashes in her mind, raising more questions about their shared past. Suddenly, a series of heavy, metallic clunks echoes from the steel door. Someone is sealing it shut from the outside. Her eyes widen in dawning horror. They are truly trapped. With the horrifying sound of the door being sealed, Seo Woo's fear turns to resolve. She's done with the mystery. Backing away, she grabs a metal ladder and starts to climb, putting distance between them. She looks down at Won Hyuk, her voice shaking but firm, demanding to know how he ended up here. A bitter look crosses his face. He knows she was never going to trust him blindly. Seeing his silence, Seo Woo threatens to scream if he moves an inch, vowing to leave if he doesn't start talking right now. Defeated, Won Hyuk finally breaks his silence. He confesses that he ran into the bunker to hide from someone who came looking for him. He warns Seo Woo that it's incredibly dangerous for her to go outside right now. The horrifying truth dawns on her as she asks if the person out there is his father. His quiet, pained confirmation changes everything. Seo Woo is now frozen, facing an impossible choice. Staying is a gamble, but leaving means facing the monster who trapped them. She knows that whatever she decides next, there's no turning back. A horrifying memory flashes through Seo Woo's mind. Earlier, she had sprinted to the hatch, desperately trying to turn the wheel and signal for help. But just as she struggled with the heavy lock, a terrifying figure loomed behind her. Before she could react, the man slammed the hatch shut with a deafening clunk. The memory forces her to her knees, gasping for air. The terrifying truth sinks in. Won Hyuk's father came to silence his son, and he'll likely silence her too, just for being a witness. The sheer panic is suffocating. The sheer terror of being trapped sends Seo Woo into a full-blown panic. As she spirals, Won Hyuk rushes to her side, gently holding her face to ground her. Through her sobs, she desperately asks him if there's another way out of this concrete tomb. The scene then flashes back to an earlier time, showing Nam Seo Woo and Ji Seung-chan outside the very same bunker. Seung-chan, who admits he ran away from home, struggles with a heavy lock. With a final, useless clunk, he gives up, cursing that it won't open. Nam Seo Woo scoffs, asking if Seung-chan seriously plans on living in the bunker. The teasing stops as he suddenly asks if his friend's head is okay now. He points out that Seung-chan transferred schools because of that incident, the day he got seriously injured by Won Hyuk, the infamous son of a killer. The memory makes Seung-chan wince. Looking around, he asks if they still live in the neighborhood. When asked who, he clarifies he means Ju Won Hyuk and Nam Seo Woo himself, who just smirks at the mention of his own name. Back at the house, Seo Woo's aunt is cleaning when a call comes in from the school. They're asking where Seo Woo is. Without skipping a beat, the aunt spins a lie about a sleepover, claiming Seo Woo's phone must be dead. She reassures the teacher she'll try calling later, then promptly hangs up. Instead of worrying, she calmly picks up a family photo from a bookshelf, her expression blank. It's chillingly clear. No one is even looking for her. Her aunt gazes at an old photo on her phone, a picture of a smiling young Seo Woo with her parents. It's a snapshot from a much happier time. The woman's face remains cold as she thinks about how little they resemble each other. Back in the darkness of the bunker, Won Hyuk grabs a screwdriver, attempting to pry open a locked container. But the tool is no match for the lock. He mutters to himself that he can't open it this way, his search for supplies hitting yet another dead end. Stepping carefully over the rubble, Seo Woo finds Won Hyuk in a small side room, unwrapping a stained bandage from his arm. His injury looks serious. She recalls their tense agreement. Find another exit and stay quiet, since Won Hyuk fears his own father is the one who trapped them. She had to stop him from trying to smash another door open, insisting they look for a key instead of using brute force. Watching him silently tend to his wounds, a grim reality sets in. They have to be smart to get out of this alive. Things are still a total mess, but Seo Woo realizes one crucial fact. Won Hyuk isn't a threat. It finally clicks. He wasn't waiting to trap her. He came here to hide from his own father. In that moment, she understands they were both chased into this underground prison, two people running from their own nightmares. As Won Hyuk tightly wraps the bandage around his injured arm, he glances at her. He sees a girl in the same boat as him and wonders what desperate thoughts must have pushed her to open that bunker door. A cruel voice suddenly echoes in Won Hyuk's mind, questioning why the girl is still with him. He's jolted by the memory of his father's menacing words, reminding him of why he's hiding in the first place. The thought triggers a flash of a dark, violent memory, a hand gripping a blade. His past rushes back in a painful wave. He sees a crowded school hallway, where one student shoves another down the stairs. Everyone else just watches, whispering amongst themselves, completely indifferent to the ugly scene unfolding right in front of them. The memory shifts to a crowded school hallway. Seo-woo spots her cousin, Ji-won, and immediately tells her friends to go on without her. Confused, they agree to meet her at the gate and leave her behind. The scene reveals her aunt, worried sick and trying to find her. She'd called a friend's parent, who only confirmed that Seo-woo was supposedly sleeping over. Back in the hallway, when a student asks Ji-won for details, her cousin coldly shuts the conversation down, insisting she knows nothing. The family tension is suffocating. Ji-won shuts her cousin down flat, insisting she already said her piece that morning before turning to leave. Later, a teacher pulls her aside, questioning if this whole mess is about Ju-won Hyuk. Ji-won recalls that he was absent again, but lies straight to the teacher's face, denying it was his house. She walks away, carrying the heavy secret alone. If her cousin's parents knew she was going to see Won Hyuk, they would have forbidden it. This is something she can't tell anyone, not even her own mother. Ji-won realizes the truth. The only place Seo-woo could have gone is to Won Hyuk's house. Meanwhile, trapped in the dark bunker, Seo-woo tries to map out an escape plan on the wall. She searched the entire room and found no key, wondering if breaking the doorknob is their only option. An idea suddenly strikes, and she sketches a ladder. Out of nowhere, Won Hyuk grabs her arm, demanding to know what she's doing. Seo-woo jumps, telling him he scared her. She quickly insists she was just looking at the wall. Seo-woo notices something is off, telling Won Hyuk he looks really unwell. He tries to brush it off, claiming this is just how he always looks, but she isn't buying it. She insists that something is different and that his hair is covering it up. Before he can react, she reaches out to push his bangs aside for a better look. He flinches back violently, shoving her hand away and shielding his face from her. The sharp rejection leaves Seo-woo stunned and speechless, the tension between them suddenly thick and heavy. Seo-woo stammers out an apology, totally flustered by her own forwardness. But as she freaks out, Won Hyuk is lost in his own head, realizing her weakness brought back old habits. He suddenly grabs her hand, pulling her in close. A dark thought echoes in his mind. He has to get her out of here. If she lets her guard down, she'll start hoping for a tomorrow, a hope he believes is dangerous. He holds her still, their faces inches apart, the air thick with unspoken tension. Won Hyuk's grip is like iron, and Seo-woo winces, thinking her arm might just snap in half. She demands to know why he grabbed her, telling him to stop messing around and let go. But instead of answering, he changes the subject completely, asking if she's hungry. He points out that she hasn't eaten all day and mentions that he brought some food. Stunned by his sudden concern, Seo-woo realizes food had totally slipped her mind. He tells her to go eat while he searches for the key, and she quietly agrees. He quickly releases her hand. Confused by his sudden change in mood, Seo-woo turns and walks away to find the food he mentioned. Won Hyuk watches her go, his expression unreadable, before heading off in the opposite direction. As he walks, a dark, inky shadow seems to spread across the floor behind him, a visual representation of his turmoil. He drops a small rock, the sound echoing in the oppressive silence. Elsewhere, a news report flickers on a television screen, showing a man whose face has been completely blurred out. Meanwhile, at Seo-woo's so-called home, her aunt anxiously reaches for her phone. But before she can make the call, her own daughter, Ji-won, snatches it right out of her hand. Ji-won furiously asks if she was really going to call Seo-woo again, forbidding her. The uncle chimes in, complaining that it's the weekend and Seo-woo just makes him uncomfortable. The aunt worries, pointing out Seo-woo has been gone for 2 days. But Ji-won isn't having it, accusing her mom of just pretending to be ignorant about the whole situation. Ji-won recalls the day it all started, a funeral where small, heartbroken Seo-woo clung to her mother's side. Ji-won scoffs, accusing Seo-woo of latching onto their family like a leech. She furiously tells her mom that if she had just cut Seo-woo off back then, she wouldn't have had to go to such extremes now. The aunt is speechless. Ji-won coldly orders her never to call Seo-woo again. She then grabs a lighter and walks out, ignoring her mother's desperate question about where she's going in the rain. The lighter sparks to life. Muttering in annoyance, Ji-won stands in an alleyway, ready to light a cigarette. Suddenly, a hand snatches the lighter away. She looks up to see a classmate, Ji Seung-chan. He tries to light it for her, but the lighter only clicks uselessly. He shakes it, commenting that his is dead, too. Annoyed by the strange interruption, Ji-won glares at him, wondering what his problem is. He stares back for a moment before a flicker of recognition crosses his face. He points, struggling to remember her name as he says the first syllable, Ji. Inside the dim bunker, Seo-woo stirs. She glances over and sees Won Hyuk is finally unconscious, a rare sight since he always stands guard until she's asleep. But his rest is not peaceful. He suddenly turns, his face slick with sweat and twisted in agony. A silent panic grips Seo-woo as she watches him struggle. Tiptoeing to his side, She wonders if he's having a nightmare. She leans over him, calling his name and telling him to wake up, hoping to pull him from whatever horror is gripping his mind. As Seo-woo shakes him, Won Hyok's hand suddenly shoots out, clamping down on her wrist. His eyes are still closed, but he's sweating and trembling in his sleep. The scene cuts to Ji-won walking in the rain with Ji Seung-chan. He brings up the incident, noting that everyone in town knows her because of it. Annoyed, she tells him to stop leaning on her. After a strange moment where he smacks the lighter against his own head, he finally remembers her name. Handing her the umbrella, he asks if she has any questions for him. Ji Seung-chan asks if she wants to know why he came back. Ji-won scoffs, asking why she would ever care. He ignores her cold shoulder and cuts straight to the real reason he's here, asking if her cousin, Seo-woo, is currently with Won Hyok. The question catches Ji-won completely off guard. Her hand tightens on the umbrella as she tells him they ended things ages ago. Seung-chan acknowledges their bad breakup, but hints that for Won Hyok, it might not really be over. Confused and annoyed, Ji-won demands to know what he means. Won Hyok's eyes snap open as Seo-woo tries to wake him. Back in the rain, Ji-won demands to know what Seung-chan meant. He lays out a chilling reality. Seo-woo may have cut ties, but Won Hyok never did. In fact, he can't. Seung-chan warns that after forcing himself to stay away for so long, Won Hyok has surely reached his breaking point. The scene flashes to a memory of Won Hyok clinging to Seo-woo, his expression showing a man pushed to his absolute limit. A sudden, heavy thud echoes from above, snapping them to attention. Won Hyok immediately lunges for the exit, his hand straining against the groaning metal hatch as it's forced shut. Seo-woo watches in pure panic, realizing their only escape route is closing. Despite Won Hyok's desperate struggle, the heavy door slams down with a final, booming thud, sealing them in total darkness. To make matters worse, the ladder is kicked down, clattering to the floor beside them. They are now completely, utterly trapped in their underground prison. A shadow looms from the opening above. Won Hyok instantly shoves against the heavy steel hatch, his muscles straining as it's forced shut from the outside. He gives it everything he's got, but the door slams down with a deafening boom, plunging them into suffocating darkness. Seconds later, the ladder is kicked down, crashing to the floor. Now trapped, Won Hyok's eyes burn with a desperate, wild intensity. This place was supposed to be a shelter, but it just became their prison. Seung-chan reveals a grim reality. Won Hyok could never push Seo-woo away. She was the only one who ever saved him from his isolation, a kindness he would cling to even if it meant destroying them both. Back in the dark bunker, that obsession takes over. He suddenly pulls her into a crushing, desperate hug, his grip so tight, she can barely breathe. A wave of chilling déjà vu hits Seo-woo. She remembers this feeling, this exact terrifying moment from their shared past. Trapped in his desperate embrace, a chilling memory hits Seo-woo. Before, his touch was terrifying, his presence overwhelming. But now, something has changed. In his trembling grip, she doesn't see a monster, but a reflection of her own fear. He's just as broken and scared as she is. Realizing this, she knows she can't abandon him. Instead of struggling, her hand rises and gently pats his back, a small gesture of comfort in their shared prison. Won Hyok freezes, completely stunned by this unexpected act of kindness. The intense moment shatters as Won Hyok abruptly pulls away. He quickly apologizes, explaining he grabbed her because she seemed to be trembling. But Seo-woo turns the question back on him, asking if he was the one having a nightmare since he's covered in sweat. As she reaches out to comfort him, he sharply bats her hand away. Cowering, he tells her not to touch him, his voice filled with self-loathing as he calls himself dirty. Seo-woo can only watch, stunned by his painful confession. Seo-woo puts the pieces together. Won Hyok hasn't slept properly since they got trapped here. She suspects his father's visit haunts his dreams, bringing back dark memories of past violence. Her gaze falls to the wound on his arm as she connects the dots. She then drops a bombshell, calling him by a name from their shared past, Nam Seo-woo. Completely blindsided, he looks up, defensively asking why she suddenly cares about him now. Her knowledge has clearly hit a nerve, cornering him completely. The rain pours down as Ji-won is suddenly stopped on the street by Nam Seo-woo. He starts asking questions about Won Hyok, and Ji-won's defenses immediately go up. She demands to know why he cares. Playing it cool, Nam Seo-woo claims he just has some business with him and casually drops the subject when he gets nothing from her. But his presence has already set off alarm bells. Ji-won glares, her mind racing. Why is this guy suddenly sniffing around their neighborhood, looking for Won Hyok? Something is definitely not right. Ji-won sizes up Nam Seo-woo, trying to figure out his angle. Is he trying to start rumors? She doubts it, he doesn't seem like that type of guy. He flips the script, asking if she's been to Won Hyok's house. Ji-won admits she already went, but no one answered the door. Staring at the rain-drenched gate, Nam Seo-woo confirms the place is completely empty. This throws Ji-won for a loop. She knows Seo-woo is supposed to be there. Shaking off her worry, she tries to convince herself that Seo-woo is fine. A terrible thought hits Ji-won as she stands in the downpour. Something is definitely wrong here. Her eyes narrow when she spots it. The front gate isn't latched shut. Giving it a gentle push, it swings wide open, confirming her deepest fears. Her heart pounds in her chest as she cautiously approaches the house, only to find the main entrance is open, too. Swallowing her nerves, Ji-won knows she can't back down now. She has to step inside and see what's going on. Ji-won's mind flashes back to that fateful day in the bunker, realizing she might have been wrong about everything. The heavy door clicked shut, sealing them inside their prison. He had asked her bluntly if she was only paying attention to him now because she was afraid. Stunned, Ji-won told him to stop and just treat her like he always did. But just as she was about to confess what she honestly thought of him, Won Hyok suddenly cut her off. He announced he was going to wash up, leaving her totally bewildered by his sudden distance. In the bunker's grimy washroom, Won Hyok hunched over the sink, his expression hidden. He held his arm under the weak stream of water, watching as dark stains swirled away into the drain. From the doorway, Ji-won's eyes widened in horror as the grime cleared. It wasn't just dirt. Angry, discolored marks covered his skin, revealing injuries he had kept hidden from her. A choked gasp escaped her as she slapped a hand over her mouth. He wasn't pushing her away, he was trying to hide how much pain he was in. In the dim light, Ji-won watches the water run over his arm. She breaks the silence, asking if his troubles are because his father appeared the day before. She realizes she hasn't seen him sleep soundly even once since they got here, wondering if the man haunts his dreams. Pointing to the injury on his arm, she finally says his name, Nam Seo-woo. He doesn't look at her, his voice flat as he questions her sudden interest. Ji-won flinches, instantly worrying that she brought up something she shouldn't have. Ji-won's heart sinks. She realizes she only pretended to care because she was scared, and that Won Hyok probably knew it all along. He must think her concern now is just as fake. Clenching her fists, she wonders if telling him how she truly feels would even matter anymore. Meanwhile, as the rain pours down on their hidden prison, Won Hyok finds an old hairdryer. He plugs it in, the machine whirring to life as he focuses on drying his shirt, completely shutting her out as the bunker lights flicker overhead. Holding a roll of bandages, Ji-won decides she has to help. She doesn't care if Won Hyok thinks she's being fake. After seeing what he's going through, she can't just ignore it. Not while they're trapped together. Just as she builds her courage, a sharp crack echoes through the bunker. The lights die, plunging them into absolute darkness. Disoriented, Ji-won scrambles on the floor. She can't see a thing and wonders if the intense storm outside finally caused a blackout, leaving them completely isolated in the dark. Trapped in absolute darkness, Ji-won realizes the long path back is now a dangerous maze of debris. Hoping to find a flashlight, she nervously calls out Nam Seo-woo's name. A moment later, a powerful beam of light slices through the black. It's him. He's already found an old flashlight and starts walking towards her. Then, without a word, he suddenly lunges, grabbing her and pulling her into a tight embrace as the darkness presses in around them. A heavy door groans open, cutting through the bunker's silence. Light spills out, revealing Won Hyok, and he's a total wreck. He's sweating, haunted, and begging some unseen memory not to tell him a horrifying truth. Ji-won peeks around the corner, cautiously calling his name. He spins around in a flash, his eyes wide with panic. Before she can even flinch, he lunges and grabs her arm. His grip is like a steel trap, pulling her into his personal nightmare as he asks if she was looking for him. His grip is like iron as he demands to know why she's wandering around, questioning why she can't just stay put. Ji-won winces, confused by his intense reaction. Suddenly, it clicks. The blackout must have triggered his claustrophobia. She asks if the darkness is making it worse, her eyes catching the blood dripping down his arm. She offers the bandages she brought for him, but his expression darkens. Instead of accepting her help, he grabs her hand and starts pulling her deeper into the suffocating darkness of the bunker. Won Hyok drags Ji-won deeper into the bunker, questioning why she wandered off just for some bandages. He sneers, accusing her of trying to act nice when all she really wants is to escape. He stops them abruptly in front of a massive, sealed door. Done being passive, Ji-won plants her feet, her expression hardening with resolve. She declares they need to break it down. Since they can't find a key, smashing their way out is the only option left. She insists they both need to leave, and if he won't do it, she will. Won Hyok grips a hammer, ready to smash his way through their prison. Ji-won watches him, trying to convince herself this is for the best. She decides her concern for him is just a side effect of their terrifying situation. Once they're out, she vows, things will go back to the way they were, back to pretending the other didn't exist. Suddenly, her flashlight beam catches something on the wall. She stops, confused. It's a detailed schematic for a machine room. This place wasn't just a simple bunker. With the door finally open, they're met with a horrifying sight. Not freedom, but a massive lake. Ji-won's mind races, refusing to believe this is their only way out. But the schematic she saw confirms her fear. There is no other exit. As the crushing reality sets in, the bunker suddenly trembles violently. Without a second thought, Won-hyuk yanks her back from the unstable doorway, wrapping his arms around her to shield her from the falling debris as they both crash to the ground. Their prison is collapsing around them. The dust settles with Won-hyuk shielding Ji-won from the falling debris. He asks if she's alright, but she can't respond. The reality of their prison finally hits her, and she spirals into despair. Ji-won believes no one will ever look for her, that they'll simply be forgotten in this crumbling tomb. Just as all her hope vanishes, Won-hyuk's eyes harden. He pulls her close, interrupting her panic. He declares with absolute certainty that he knows a real way out of this nightmare. A flicker of hope returns in the dark. The words cut through her despair. He just told her there's a real way out of this crumbling death trap. For a moment, a wild hope burns through her fear. But then, confusion hits hard. Ji-won quickly pulls back, staring at him with wide, disbelieving eyes. A real exit? She demands to know what he means. If he knew this whole time, why did he let her fall apart? Why keep it a secret while she was convinced they were going to die? Any flicker of trust she had in him shatters. The trust shatters completely. Ji-won accuses him, saying she finally understands he locked her up after all. She feels like a complete fool for ever worrying about him, for thinking he was just another victim trapped by accident. Without a word, Won-hyuk gently pats her on the head. Then, he suddenly yanks her to her feet and starts pulling her along. She demands to know what he's doing. He just states flatly that besides the flooded blue door, he hasn't seen anything else that looks like an actual exit. Ji-won grabs his arm, demanding to know what he's hiding. Won-hyuk flatly denies having anything, but she's done with the games. She tells him to stop lying, her voice thick with betrayal. She can't believe she ever trusted him, especially after what happened to her in the past. In a sudden move, Won-hyuk shoves her hard against the concrete floor, his strength easily overpowering her. He pins her wrists above her head, his shadow looming over her. Trapped and terrified, she begs him to let her out. His grip tightens as he flatly denies her accusations. He asks if she understands the real reason he locked her in the bunker. Reaching behind his back, he pulls out a sharp, menacing tool. Ji-won freezes, her blood running cold. With dead eyes, Won-hyuk delivers a soul-shattering confession. He took a life. A disturbing flash of a memory, a room stained crimson and his own father, flickers through his mind. He trapped her, he explains, because he knew that if she found out, she would spread rumors about the monster he is. With his confession hanging in the air, Won-hyuk delivers his final, cold command. Ji-won must give up all hope of leaving. The bunker dissolves into a disturbing memory from her past. Her friend gags, covering her nose from a sickeningly strong chemical smell she thinks might be bleach. They stand before a grim room with barred windows where a single, ominous suitcase sits on the floor. Her friend asks about it, but Ji-won doesn't answer. Her head suddenly whips around, her eyes wide with pure terror at something just out of sight. The terrifying memory solidifies. Ji-won finds herself standing at a doorway, faced by a woman in glasses. The woman, who is in the middle of cleaning, comments on the overwhelming bleach smell in the air. She recognizes Ji-won as the girl from next door, assuming she's visiting Won-hyuk because they used to be close as kids. Internally, Ji-won panics, wondering if the woman has mistaken her for someone named Nam Seo-woo. The woman adds that Won-hyuk is rarely home anyway. Ji-won can only awkwardly state they aren't that close. The woman in glasses comments that she had no idea Ji-won was still there, since she tends to wander in and out. Visibly flustered, Ji-won stammers an apology for intruding and quickly backs away. Her retreat is stopped by another woman with a ponytail and a cold stare. She looks over her shoulder, demanding to know why Ji-won hasn't left yet. Ji-won flees the house as the gate slams behind her. Standing on the street, a horrifying realization hits her. The memory confirms it. On that day, she was not mistaken about what she saw. Won-hyuk's grip tightens, his fingers digging into Ji-won's wrist. She trembles, crying out that he's hurting her. But her fear quickly turns into desperation. With a surge of adrenaline, her free hand snatches a nearby knife. In a single, swift motion, she twists around and aims the blade directly at him. Her eyes are wild as she demands that he let her out right now. She warns him that if he refuses, she won't hesitate to use the weapon. Unfazed, Won Hyuk simply looks down at her, his expression unreadable. Instead of backing down, Won Hyuk calmly takes the knife from her and presses the blade against his own neck. He looks at her with dead eyes and tells her to do whatever she wants. Releasing her wrist, he declares that nothing she does will change the situation. He has no intention of ever letting her out, so she should just give up. Ji-won is paralyzed with shock. He wasn't bluffing. She realizes with dawning horror that Ju Won Hyuk is completely serious, and her desperate threat meant nothing to him. Realizing her bluff failed, Ji-won searches for another way to back Won Hyuk into a corner. A dark memory flashes through her mind, a younger Won Hyuk holding a blade to her throat. Fueled by this terrifying image, she makes her move. With sudden, shocking speed, she plunges the knife into his shoulder. He cries out, staggering back as red spatters onto the concrete. He falls to the ground, looking up at her in utter disbelief. The power dynamic has just been violently shattered, and Ji-won is no longer his helpless captive. Ji-won collapses to the floor, panting as she clutches the weapon. But her victory is short-lived. Ignoring the red dripping from his shoulder, Won Hyuk slowly gets to his feet. She screams at him not to come any closer, her voice shaking with fear. He ignores her warning completely. With effortless speed, he closes the distance and snatches the blade from her hand. The power dynamic shifts in an instant. As he stares down at her, his gaze falls on a long, thin mark on her arm, and his expression hardens. Her anger suddenly vanishes, replaced by a wave of shock at her own actions. Whispering Won Hyuk's name, Ji-won tears a piece from her own shirt. She gently presses the makeshift bandage against the wound on his shoulder. He doesn't pull away. As she tends to him, she sees his back is covered in a roadmap of old scars. Their minds flash back to a shared, painful past. They were both just kids trying to survive. All they have to do is make it through one more day. The blade rests on the cold floor, forgotten. After their violent clash, a tense silence settles between them. Won Hyuk, ignoring his shoulder, suddenly speaks, calling her by an unfamiliar name, Nam Seo-woo. Ji-won jolts at the name, utterly confused. He tells her to grab her things and come with him. With a grunt of effort, he pries open a heavy metal hatch hidden in the floor. The rusted metal groans, revealing a dark shaft leading straight down. Staring into the abyss, Ji-won's heart sinks. She whispers, asking if this is really the door to the outside. Ji-won's mind races. How did Won Hyuk even know this secret passage existed? He doesn't wait, simply telling her to follow him down carefully. With a flashlight cutting through the gloom, he descends the ladder into the shaft below. Partway down, he stops her and hands over a piece of cloth. He explains that she needs to cover her eyes, warning that the sudden light outside will be too harsh after being in the dark for so long. He adds that it's her first time, so she needs to be careful. Deciding it's best to obey before he changes his mind, Ji-won ties the cloth tightly over her eyes. She grabs her bag and follows his lead into the darkness. Won Hyuk warns her not to be startled, explaining there's water below. As she hears a door opening, relief washes over her. She's finally getting out. Her feet splash into cool liquid, and she struggles to keep her balance without her sight. Noticing her difficulty, Won Hyuk quietly offers to carry her things for her. As she starts to thank him, their hands brush. Ji-won is suddenly swept off her feet. Stuttering, she asks if he just picked her up. Won Hyuk flatly confirms it and carries her through the shallow water, telling her to stay put. She demands he let her down, but he ignores her, heading for the light. Once they're outside, he finally sets her on the ground. Thinking it's not so bright, she reaches to take off the blindfold. But Won Hyuk's hand shoots out, covering her eyes just as a brilliant flash erupts. Even through the cloth, the light is overwhelming. As Won Hyuk carries her through the tall grass, a familiar smell hits Ji-won. She realizes it's the same earthy scent that has always clung to him. He finally sets her down on solid ground, telling her that they've arrived and she knows this place. A flashback hits her. This smell, this place, it's all connected to him. As he reaches to untie her blindfold, she whispers his name, the pieces of their shared past finally starting to click together. As Won Hyuk unties the blindfold, Ji-won looks around the familiar clearing. She quietly asks if he isn't going back with her. Without answering, he turns and walks away into the trees. She stands there, stunned and holding the cloth, as a powerful memory washes over her. This exact scene has played out before. When she looks up again, he's already gone, vanished in a flash just like he did all those years ago. He left her behind once again, disappearing in an instant. Ji-won stood alone, feeling as if Won Hyuk had never been there at all. She tried to shake off the strange feeling, telling herself it was just the aftermath of being trapped underground for so long. As she walked through the familiar streets of her town, she decided this was her reality. This was where she belonged. But as she reached her apartment door, a new panic set in. How many days had passed? She'd missed school. Everyone must think something was terribly wrong with her. Her mind raced, trying to invent a story for her long absence. With a click, the door to her apartment swung open, and Ji-won stepped back into her supposed home. In the dimly lit living room, her aunt sat on the couch, casually crunching on a snack. Ji-won froze, her heart pounding in her chest. Without even turning around, her aunt's voice cut through the heavy silence, asking if she had fun. The question wasn't a warm welcome, it was a cold accusation, and a new wave of dread washed over Ji-won. The tension at the dinner table is suffocating. Ji-won's aunt offers her food with a fake smile, but her questions are sharp and probing. When Ji-won shows no appetite, her cousin tries to defend her, telling his mom to just leave her alone. Her aunt scoffs, sarcastically suggesting the food was better wherever Ji-won was staying. Pushed to her limit, Ji-won suddenly stands, declaring she isn't eating. She grabs a cup, leaving her family stunned by her outburst as the fake family dinner completely shatters. Ji-won clutches her stomach, feeling sick. Her aunt follows her, offering more food with a fake, sweet smile. Ji-won just manages to say she's okay before escaping to her room. The cramped space feels even smaller now, suffocating. She picks up her phone, the screen glowing in the dark. A notification confirms it. She was trapped in the bunker for 4 days. As flashes of her time with Won Hyuk overwhelm her, she knows the truth. It felt so much longer than that. Ji-won stared at her phone, a bitter realization dawning on her. Her aunt had barely tried to call. Of course, she hadn't been worried. Just then, the bedroom door clicked open. Her cousin stood in the doorway, her expression cold and judging. She cut straight to the chase, asking Ji-won if she was at Won Hyuk's house. Stunned into silence, Ji-won could only mutter a confused what. But her cousin pressed on, coldly stating that it wasn't like Ji-won had anywhere else to go besides his house. Before her cousin can finish the insinuation, Ji-won vehemently denies it. A dark memory flashes in her mind, the shadow of Won Hyuk's father and Won Hyuk's haunting words. Her cousin coldly states she doesn't care if Ji-won slept on the streets, as long as it wasn't with him. Frustrated, Ji-won argues she could have been at a friend's house. Scornfully questioning what friends she could possibly have, her cousin suddenly kicks over Ji-won's bag, sending its contents scattering across the bedroom floor in a disrespectful display. Her cousin's voice dripped with scorn as she towered over Ji-won. She questioned who could possibly be friends with someone like her. Her cold gaze then fell upon Ji-won's bandaged arm. She cruelly called her an attention seeker, asking if she'd pulled another crazy stunt. Ji-won stayed silent, unable to form a response. Letting out a final, disgusted scoff, her cousin told her she makes everything so exhausting, and then left the room. Completely drained by the encounter, Ji-won fell face first onto her bed, the world feeling too heavy to bear. Her cousin's cruel words bounced around in Seo-woo's head. Was she really the one making things so exhausting? The next day at school was a complete blur. Classmates buzzed around her, asking why she'd been absent and what was for lunch, but their voices were just background noise. She sat alone in the loud cafeteria, feeling too numb to even eat. In her heart, she couldn't find the strength to deny her cousin's insults. Her grip loosened, and her spoon slipped, clattering to the floor. Suddenly, a hand reached down and picked it up. Seo-woo stared at the spoon, feeling a profound disconnect. She didn't even feel the urge to deny her cousin's cruel words. A chilling question echoed in her mind. How did she even live before? She couldn't remember how she was supposed to feel or what she used to think about. It was a complete blank. Panic began to set in. If she kept living like this, people would notice something was terribly wrong. Standing frozen, she made a desperate resolve. She absolutely had to remember who she used to be. As Seo-woo tried to force a memory, a strange one suddenly surfaced. She was a little kid, stuck in a stuffy auditorium for a civil defense drill. The other students whined, complaining that their legs hurt from standing so long. All she could think about was how badly she wanted to sit down. She questioned why this random event was replaying in her mind now. On stage, an instructor demonstrated how to use a gas mask. Suddenly, a teacher announced that a box of masks was missing, leaving them short. The memory abruptly cut off as a hand suddenly clasped hers. The memory continued. The teacher announced they were short on gas masks, so everyone had to share in pairs. While the other kids scrambled to find a partner, even Ji-won pairing up instantly, Seo-woo was left standing by herself. A familiar, sinking feeling washed over her as she realized things were no different back then. Just as one teacher pointed out that Seo Woo was the odd one out, another mentioned that a different class also had an uneven number of students, leaving someone else all alone too. With Seo Woo left partnerless, a teacher proposed a solution. Since another class also had an odd number of students, they should just pair the two loners up. As the teachers agreed, the hazy memories snapped into focus for Seo Woo. A jolt of recognition hit her. She remembered this moment. A boy suddenly stood before her, his face completely hidden behind a gray gas mask. This was it. During that tense air raid drill, the two outcasts were brought together by circumstance. This was when she first met him. With their hands clasped together, the memory became crystal clear. Seo Woo remembered why this moment stood out so vividly. Back in the crowded gymnasium for that civil defense drill, the teachers hesitated to pair her with the strange, gas-masked boy. But little Seo Woo, ever the outcast, didn't mind. Before the teacher could finish her worried thought, Seo Woo quickly spoke up, declaring that she was fine with the arrangement. The boy in the mask turned his head slightly, seemingly surprised by her quick acceptance of him as her partner. Little Seo Woo tried to make conversation, cheerfully asking her new partner if he also came to school that day. But the boy in the gas mask just stood there, completely silent. As other kids gossiped nearby, she nudged him, wondering why he wouldn't answer. They snickered about how she was a loser now, just for being paired with Ju Won-hyuk. Oblivious to their taunts, she asked if something was wrong. But before she could finish her sentence, Won-hyuk abruptly spun around and walked away, leaving her all alone again. As Won-hyuk walked away, the whispers finally revealed the truth. The other kids gossiped about his dark family secret, calling him the son of a notorious criminal. But Seo Woo wasn't scared off. After the drill, she went looking for him. She found the boy hiding behind some bushes, looking totally dejected. With a cheerful smile, she popped up and declared that she'd found him. Stunned, Won-hyuk demanded to know how she knew he'd be there. Instead of answering, she simply sat down beside him, offering silent companionship to the lonely boy. Seo Woo asked him why he ran away. Won-hyuk fired back, questioning why she followed him. He told her she should have just stayed put, pointing out that not having a partner made her an outcast too. Unfazed, she tapped the mask he'd abandoned. She complained that because he ditched her, she didn't know how to put it on and demanded he teach her. When he reached for it, she refused that specific mask. The reason soon became clear. Nearby kids were whispering about an indirect kiss. Flustered, Won-hyuk could only blurt out that it was dirty. Instead of just handing it over, Seo Woo boldly snatched the gas mask and put it on herself. Stunned, Won-hyuk quickly told her that she wasn't dirty, trying to take back his clumsy words. But it was too late. Peeking through the mask's lenses, Seo Woo saw his face flush bright red. She couldn't resist teasing him, asking if he was feeling hot. Looking back now, the older Seo Woo wonders why she went to such lengths for that lonely boy, a question that still lingers in her mind. Back at the house, Seo Woo's cousin Jiwon gets called out by her mom. The aunt demands to know why she's been ignoring Seo Woo at school. Jiwon gets defensive, blaming it on an odd number of students in her class. But her mom isn't having it, revealing the teacher told her everything about Seo Woo always being left out during activities. While her family argues, Seo Woo has other things on her mind. She spots Won-hyuk sitting alone on the stairs, looking downcast. She throws open the window and shouts his name. Startled, Won-hyuk looks up to see Seo Woo at the window, telling him to come play. He follows her outside, and she leads him toward a shortcut home from school. She stops him, warning him not to go into the murky water ahead. She reminds him of a drill, where they were told landmines had been found in a nearby area. Won-hyuk points out that the danger is far from here. Annoyed, Seo Woo snaps that he can take the long way around then. With that, she immediately ignores her own warning and expertly hops across the stone posts. Her confidence backfires as she misjudges a jump and slips, nearly falling into the murky water. But in a flash, Won-hyuk leaps forward, catching her just in time. He steadies her on the stone, quietly telling her she almost fell. Trying to play it cool, Seo Woo retorts that she knew he would follow her anyway. A flustered Won-hyuk mumbles for her to just stand up straight. A moment later, he looks down and asks why she isn't scared of him, but he calls her Nam Seo Woo, getting her name completely wrong. Won-hyuk finally asks her if she ever thinks before she acts. He points out her recklessness, from charging into a rumored landmine zone to leaning dangerously out of windows. But his real question is why she keeps reaching out to him, the son of a man with such a dark reputation. Unfazed, Seo Woo simply asks if she's supposed to be scared of him. She admits that if she were afraid, she would end up avoiding him. Looking right at him, she confesses that's the last thing she wants to do. She remembered always wishing for someone who wanted her, someone who would give her a place she could truly call home. As she walks, her feet unconsciously lead her to a stop in front of a familiar chain-link fence. Through the mesh, she stares down at a heavy hatch set into the ground, the entrance to the old bunker. The sight triggers a deep sadness, and a single tear escapes as her heart thumps heavily in her chest, overwhelmed by a wave of loneliness from her past. Sia Wu recalls always wishing for someone to want her, for a place she could finally call home. Her wandering feet led her right back to the bunker, a place overflowing with painful memories of her and a younger Won Hyuk. But even after coming all this way, she couldn't bring herself to go inside. It wasn't just the old fear he had instilled in her that held her back. Something else, a deep feeling still lingering from their past, stopped her from opening that heavy metal door. Back in the classroom, Sia Wu finds her desk has been taken by a group of girls. She quietly tries to reclaim her seat, but they completely ignore her, joking that she's invisible like a ghost. Their cruel whispers then turn to the bandages on her arm, accusing her of hurting herself just to get noticed. Hearing their nasty comments, Sia Wu finally snaps and confronts them. Unfazed, the main bully just doubles down, loudly declaring that Sia Wu only did it for attention, making sure the entire class could hear her. The bully shoves the chair back towards Sia Wu, telling her to take it. With a sneer, she warns Sia Wu not to do anything reckless just because of her. As Sia Wu walks away, a devastating memory suddenly hits her. She finally understands how she has been living all this time. It's a chilling realization. She had wanted it all to end. Forgetting this dark wish is why she has felt so lost, as if she were just floating through life without any real purpose or connection. The chilling realization sends Sia Wu into a downward spiral. It's a familiar sensation, like she's sinking deeper than the ground itself. Suddenly, she's no longer in school but standing in the cold, familiar darkness of the bunker. A single step forward triggers a brutal memory. She sees a younger Won Hyuk collapsed on the floor, grievously injured. The shocking vision makes her gasp, her eyes flying open in terror. The forgotten horrors of this place are coming back to her, one painful memory at a time. Sia Wu jolts awake at her desk, her mind reeling from a confusing dream. She can't shake the image of Won Hyuk looking so broken, especially since she was the one who was ready to give up. A fragmented memory flashes through her mind, a younger her, completely resigned, telling someone to do whatever they wanted. Another memory follows, this time of a battered Won Hyuk asking how she found him. A chilling thought suddenly connects the pieces. What if he ended up in that bunker for the exact same devastating reason she did? The horrifying truth clicks into place. Sia Wu realizes that if Won Hyuk felt the same despair she once did, then he must be in the bunker right now, having given up. Without a second thought, she shoots up from her desk and sprints out of the school, panicked that she might be too late. A desperate memory flashes through her mind, a younger her, frantically rattling a sealed hatch, searching for another way in. Racing through the overgrown path, she focuses, convinced the other entrance has to be somewhere around here. Another memory slams into her. This was the exact spot Won Hyuk brought her to when they were kids. Fueled by sheer panic, Sia Wu launches herself into the dark opening without hesitation. She lands hard, kicks off her shoes, and races barefoot through the cold, murky water inside. Deeper in the suffocating darkness, she finds another hatch leading further down. Peering into the abyss, she silently begs that she isn't too late. She has to find him. Sia Wu desperately hoped this was all a terrible delusion. Pushing through the bunker's gloom, she spotted him, Ju Won Hyuk, slumped against the rubble, completely lifeless. She screamed his name and rushed to his side, shaking him. An unnatural cold seeped into her hands. His skin felt like ice, a terrifying departure from the warmth she remembered. Overcome with panic, Sia Wu yanked him into a desperate embrace, trying to force her own body heat into his. All she could do was pant, utterly terrified she was too late. Clinging to his ice-cold body, Sia Wu refused to give up, desperately pleading for him to come back. Then, she felt it, a faint, rhythmic thump against her chest. His heartbeat. As his fingers twitched with returning life, tears of pure relief streamed down her face. She whispered her thanks, overwhelmed with joy. Slowly, Won Hyuk's eyes fluttered open. He looked down at the girl embracing him and weakly uttered a name, but it wasn't hers. He asked if she was Nam Sia Wu. Sia Wu's relief is cut short when Won Hyuk suddenly shoves her away. Confused, she asks what's wrong, but he seems to be in another world, muttering about an injury. When she tries to get a closer look, he aggressively pushes her hand aside. He's clearly hallucinating, his face flushed with distress as he grabs his own shirt. He pleads for someone named Nam Sia Wu to just forget it, leaving the real Sia Wu completely stunned by his strange behavior and the mention of another girl's name. Sia Wu's gaze falls on a crude sketch of a ladder on the bunker wall. She turns to Won Hyuk, who is now sitting up, and asks when he drew it. He dismisses it as something he did a long time ago, explaining that the bunker's layout confused him. As he talks, he lifts his shirt to inspect his torso. The simple action triggers a forgotten memory for Seo Woo. With a sudden jolt, she realizes he must have drawn it years ago, when they were both much younger. The past and present suddenly collide. A bittersweet memory flashes through Seo Woo's mind. Two happy kids, before their lives were ruined. Snapping back to reality, her eyes widen in horror as she gets a clear view of Won Hyok's back. It's a canvas of terrible, old scars. In that instant she understands. He was hurt because of her. Overwhelmed by guilt, she offers to apply ointment to his wounds, but he sharply slaps her hand away. He tells her to forget it, warning that her hands will only get dirty. He looks away, muttering that he's the one who's dirty. Haunted by a painful memory, Seo Woo asks if he's pushing her away because he doesn't trust her. He quickly denies it, leaving her even more confused. She insists she can just wash her hands, but Won Hyok quietly explains his real fear. He doesn't want his blood to touch her. As she questions why he's being so extreme, he drops a devastating bombshell. His voice is low as he confesses that he was the one who dealt the final blow to that man, his own father. The horrifying truth hangs in the air, leaving Seo Woo speechless. Won Hyok's dark confession hangs between them, but Seo Woo is driven by a powerful guilt. If he won't let her treat his back, she insists on washing his hair, reminding him his hand was also hurt because of her. He tries to brush her off, asking why she's bothering when he already wrapped it himself. But Seo Woo refuses to be pushed away again. She guides him to the sink, and he finally lets her. As she gently washes his hair, it's a silent truce in their underground prison. As Seo Woo struggles to rinse Won Hyok's hair, she notices his shirt is getting soaked. Realizing this isn't working, she bluntly asks if he could just take it off. Won Hyok freezes, his head still bowed over the sink. Confused by his silence, Seo Woo suddenly spots it. His ears are bright red. Panicking, she mistakenly thinks she scrubbed too hard and quickly apologizes, promising to be gentler. She has no clue that her simple request has left the stoic boy completely flustered, adding a layer of awkward tension to their temporary truce. Overwhelmed, Won Hyok suddenly dunks his head under the running water. Seo Woo asks why, and he mumbles it was to cool down, leaving her confused since the water wasn't hot. Noticing his drenched uniform, he suggests a hairdryer, but she has a better idea. She tells him to forget it and hand over his shirt. Stepping outside the bunker for the first time, she hangs it on the fence to dry in the sun. She points out that the storm has passed, but Won Hyok calmly states he already knew. The bunker's lights had come back on. With a determined look, Seo Woo heads for the ladder on the bunker's side. Won Hyok, still shirtless, asks if she's ever been up there before. She ignores his question and begins her ascent. He instantly panics, yelling that it's dangerous and demanding she get down. But then, he calls out the wrong name, Nam Seo Woo. Unfazed by his shouts or his mistake, Seo Woo pulls herself onto the roof. She sits on the edge, finally getting a moment of peace as she looks out over the city below. Looking down from the roof, Seo Woo confirms her dark suspicion. It's not high enough. She scoffs at herself, thinking how pathetic it was to have ever considered this place. In that moment of distraction, she loses her footing and tips backward over the edge. But before she can fall, Won Hyok launches himself from the ladder, grabbing her in a desperate, mid-air tackle. He hauls her back onto the roof, landing over her. Shaking with raw terror, he grabs her shoulders and screams, asking if she's crazy and what would have happened if she had died. Lying on the roof, Seo Woo's mind goes completely blank. Won Hyok's frantic screaming fades into the background as a wave of cold despair washes over her. Her last-ditch escape attempt was a total failure. If even this couldn't provide a way out, then what could? Flashes of her miserable life flood her thoughts, being ignored by classmates and cast aside by her own family. She realizes her whole life has been a prison. This bunker was just a smaller, more literal cage she couldn't break out of. As Won Hyok's frantic breathing slows, the tense silence is broken by Seo Woo. Her despair hardens into a strange resolve. Lying beside him on the cold roof, she looks over and makes a bizarre proposal. She suggests that while they are trapped in the bunker, they should forget everything about the outside world. They could pretend that none of the terrible things in their lives had ever happened to them. With a calm, steady gaze, she turns to him and asks if he accepts her deal. Won Hyok stares down at Seo Woo, completely floored by her strange proposal. She wants them to forget everything, their pasts, their pain, the entire world outside the bunker. For a long, heavy moment, he doesn't say a word, just looks away as he processes the sheer insanity of her deal. The air hangs thick with tension. Finally, he turns his gaze back to her, his expression unreadable. He doesn't give an answer, but the fact that he's even considering this wild pact speaks volumes. A chilling memory flashes through Won Hyok's mind, a hand tightly gripping a sharp weapon. Breaking out in a cold sweat, he pushes the dark thought away and looks at Seowoo. He leans in, his voice low, and finally agrees to her pact. He accepts her terms to forget the world outside. The scene shifts, and sometime later, Lee Seowoo climbs up a structure to confront Nam Seowoo. Finding him sitting alone, she scolds him, warning him not to pull another dangerous stunt like sitting on the edge of a sheer drop-off. Nam Seowoo asks if his spot on the edge really looked that dangerous. With a simple, yeah, Lee Seowoo confirms his fears before climbing over the railing to sit beside him. She figures it's fine since they aren't on the absolute edge. But before she can settle, Nam Seowoo yanks her back and away from the drop. Stunned, she points out that he was sitting there just fine a second ago. He shoots back that it's different for her because she always pulls some unpredictable stunt, leaving her speechless. Sitting beside Nam Seowoo, Lee Seowoo points out that she can see their school from the ledge. After a quiet moment, she turns to him and asks for a favor. The scene then cuts to a bustling classroom where Seowoo sits alone, staring blankly out the window. Her classmates start to whisper, pointing her out. One girl comments that she's been zoned out all day. Another cruelly wonders if she's finally lost her mind, daring her friend to go and ask Seowoo what's wrong with her. A classmate marches up to Seowoo's desk, demanding to know what she's looking at out the window. Seowoo remains completely silent, lost in her thoughts. Furious at being ignored, the girl kicks her chair and asks if she's deaf. When that still gets no reaction, she slams her hand down hard on the desk. The loud crash finally snaps Seowoo out of her daze, her head whipping around in surprise as she looks up at her tormentor. The bully screams, demanding an answer. As she yells, Seowoo's phone is knocked from the desk, clattering across the floor. The girl's frustration finally boils over. In a sudden, aggressive move, she shoves Seowoo's head down. She scoffs, mocking her for being upset before turning on her heel and walking away. Seowoo is left trembling and humiliated at her desk as the other students simply watch in silence. Seowoo is left reeling, gripping her desk in disbelief. She wonders why, after always treating her like she was invisible, they're suddenly noticing her. Just then, the teacher's voice cuts through the classroom tension. The real reason for her distraction is revealed in a flashback. She had asked Nam Seowoo to stand on the blast wall. She was curious if she could see him from her classroom window and promised to let him know. Back in the present, she looks outside. There he is, a distant figure, keeping his promise. A sudden, choked laugh escapes Seowoo's lips. She quickly claps a hand over her mouth, apologizing as she ducks behind her desk. She peeks out the window again, unable to believe her eyes. He actually did it. There on the distant wall, Won Hyok is pacing back and forth before finally sitting down. A wave of secondhand embarrassment washes over Seowoo. She buries her head in her arms, completely stunned that someone with his dark reputation would actually go through with her strange request, all just for her. Seowoo can't stop smiling, completely giddy from the whole situation. She decides she has to hurry back to the bunker to see his reaction for herself. Later, a sudden scream echoes through the concrete structure, startling Won Hyok. Seowoo cautiously steps into the dark corridor, calling out his name and asking if he's asleep. She flicks on the lights and catches him in the act, rubbing his eyes as if he'd been napping. With a triumphant grin, she realizes he wasn't sleeping at all, he was waiting for her. Seowoo playfully asks Won Hyok if he actually went up to the blast wall. She confesses that she thought he'd be too embarrassed, but she kept watching anyway, just in case. She continues teasing, admitting that seeing him pacing back and forth made it almost impossible not to laugh during class. Suddenly overwhelmed, Won Hyok silently pulls her into a tight back hug, burying his face against her shoulder. Caught completely off guard by the sudden embrace, all Seowoo can do is whisper his name in surprise. Seowoo playfully asks Won Hyok if he actually climbed the blast wall. She confesses with a huge grin that she saw the whole thing from her classroom window. She admits it was so funny that she had the hardest time trying not to laugh during class. As she keeps teasing him, Won Hyok's expression shifts. Without a word, he gently touches her cheek, then suddenly pulls her into a tight back hug. He buries his face in her shoulder, overwhelmed. Completely stunned by the sudden embrace, all Seowoo can do is whisper his name in surprise. The hug ends, but Won Hyok's hand lingers, gently touching her cheek. Confused, Seowoo asks what's wrong, wondering if there's something on her face. She admits it's getting a little difficult to just stand there like this. He slowly pulls his hand away, revealing a tiny, sharp piece of glass held between his fingers. He quietly explains that he was just removing it. As Seo-woo touches her own face in shock, a painful memory of someone covered in injuries flashes through Won Hyok's mind, explaining his intense focus on her safety. Looking around their grim shelter, Seo-woo suggests they should clean up. She explains that since they have to stay, they might as well make it feel like home, and it's uncomfortable always wearing shoes. Won Hyok agrees immediately. Surprised by his fast reply, Seo-woo asks if he has any masks to deal with the dust. He cryptically says he has something similar. A moment later, they're both standing ready to clean, wearing giant gas masks. Seo-woo can't help but burst out laughing, while Won Hyok seriously calls it instinct. Still wearing her gas mask, Seo-woo explains this whole situation reminds her of having to chase him down after he ditched the school auditorium. To make the cleanup more exciting, she proposes a bet. Holding up a trash bag and tongs, she suggests a competition. The first one to fill their bag gets a wish. Won Hyok hesitates for only a moment before quietly agreeing to her terms. As Seo-woo excitedly scurries off to start, he begins his own search, his tongs carefully clamping down on a sharp piece of broken glass. The competition kicks off, but Seo-woo's playful mood sours when she sees Won Hyok is already winning by a landslide. She accuses him of cheating, and their cleaning contest quickly devolves into a messy, playful struggle. Exhausted, Seo-woo pulls off her mask and calls for a truce, admitting they aren't getting any real cleaning done. Won Hyok quietly removes his own mask and points to his overflowing trash bag, calmly declaring his victory. Defeated, Seo-woo leans against him and mutters about how relentless he is. He simply looks down at her and says he'll grant her wish. Won Hyok asks what she's going to wish for. Leaning against him, Seo-woo looks up and cheekily says she'll tell him when he finally gets to go home. Her mysterious answer leaves him curious. Internally, Seo-woo notes how easily he still gets flustered, just like she remembers from the past. A sense of relief washes over her. He's still the same person she knew. Her thoughts then drift to a memory at a coffee shop, as she recalls she wasn't the only one who felt that way back then. The memory shifts to a coffee shop where Ji-won is sitting with two friends. They're all talking trash about Seo-woo, with one girl mentioning how she suddenly burst out laughing like a maniac at school. Another friend dismisses it, saying she must have lost her mind. They look at Ji-won with pity, remarking on how annoying it must be to live with her. Stirring her drink in frustration, Ji-won agrees it's awful. Her friends tell her to just ignore Seo-woo, solidifying their mean girl alliance against RMC. In the flashback, Ji-won's friends suggest the best way to get back at Seo-woo is to ignore her completely, believing the silence will hurt her more than words. Back in the present, Seo-woo shakes off the bad memory and looks around the messy bunker, sighing that cleaning it will be tough. She resigns herself to coming back after school, but Won Hyok points out that tomorrow is the weekend. A wide smile spreads across Seo-woo's face as she realizes this means she can stay and clean with him all day. Seo-woo's face lights up as she declares they'll finish cleaning together over the weekend. A slightly stunned Won Hyok quietly agrees. Grabbing her backpack, she playfully tells him to guard the bunker well, but he quickly retorts that he's not a dog. Remembering their deal, she asks about his wish. He admits his original one was for her to return tomorrow, which is now too easy. He'll have to think of something else. Seo-woo warns him she won't let him off the hook next time before the heavy door thuds shut. The heavy door thuds shut, leaving Won Hyok completely alone in the silent bunker. A grim memory flashes through his mind, a younger version of himself, sitting isolated and dejected in a cold, empty room. He touches his cheek, the old feeling of despair still lingering. But then, the realization hits him. Tomorrow is the weekend. A rare, tiny smile spreads across his face. He clenches his bandaged fist, thinking this is actually great. It means he gets to stay with her all day. For once, this prison doesn't feel so lonely. Earlier, as Seo-woo prepared to leave, she called out to let Won Hyok know she was heading home. When silence answered, his voice suddenly came from behind the door, asking her to bring him a towel. Struck by a strange feeling of déjà vu, she agreed. But as she passed it to him, Won Hyok didn't just take the towel, he yanked her arm, pulling her close. Staring at her intensely, he called her by the wrong name, Nam Seo-woo. Then, he dropped an absolute bombshell, telling her to stay the night. Totally rattled, Seo-woo knew she should have just left earlier. She insists that she really needs to head home, but Won Hyok immediately shuts her down with a firm no. Before she can argue, he plays his final card. Clutching the towel, he declares that he's using his wish. He reminds her about their bet, asking if she'd forgotten their promise. An uneasy feeling washes over Seo-woo. She can sense that the dynamic between them has just changed, and something big is about to happen. Trapped for the night, Seo-woo sits wide awake on the couch, her nerves getting the best of her. She glances over at Won Hyok and realizes he's still awake, too. It hits her that she's always the first one to pass out. Unable to sleep, she quietly calls out his name, causing him to shift and turn toward her. Looking at him, she makes a surprising offer, asking if he wants her to tell him how to stop nightmares if they're the reason he can't sleep. Intrigued, Won Hyuk asks her what the secret is. Seo Woo explains her simple method. Right before falling asleep, you have to keep picturing the dream you want to have. A flashback reveals their lonely pasts, a sharp contrast to the happy family she imagines. She promises that if you keep picturing it, the dream will actually appear. Still doubtful, Won Hyuk asks what happens if just thinking isn't enough. Seo Woo suggests keeping something related to that dream close by. A realization dawns on Won Hyuk. Staring intensely at her, he concludes he'll only sleep on days like today. The next time Seo Woo wakes up, the bunker is pitch black. Groggy, she calls out to Won Hyuk, questioning why the lights are always off even though he's awake when she arrives. He lists off a few practical reasons like saving power and having nothing much to do, but then he drops the real bombshell. He admits it's better to turn the lights on only when she's there. The reason is simple but powerful. He remembers that she hates the dark. Seo Woo is left stunned by his quiet, unexpected thoughtfulness. Lying awake, Won Hyuk looks up at the ceiling with a grim expression. He quietly tells the sleeping Seo Woo that he might not be coming back and that she shouldn't wait for him. The sound of heavy rain beating against the bunker fills the silence. Suddenly, a loud creak slices through the air, the sound of the door opening. Instantly, Won Hyuk is up, hovering protectively over Seo Woo and shielding her with his body. His eyes are locked on the entrance, ready to confront the intruder who has just breached their shelter. Seo Woo jolts awake, the intense, questioning voice from her nightmare fading away. She realizes it was all just a bad dream. Meanwhile, suspicion is brewing back at her aunt's house. Her aunt confronts her daughter, Ji-won, demanding to know where Seo Woo has been disappearing to. Ji-won connects the dots, mentioning the boy's clothes Seo Woo recently brought home. She speculates that the only person it could belong to is their notorious next-door neighbor, Ju Won Hyuk. It seems their secret hideout might not be a secret for much longer. Ji-won's aunt immediately dismisses the idea, figuring her daughter is just trying to stir up trouble. Playing along, Ji-won agrees, saying there's no way Seo Woo would ever approach that boy. But it's all an act. Alone with her thoughts, Ji-won recalls seeing Seo Woo secretly packing snacks. She realizes the food was never meant for their family, confirming her suspicions. The truth is bubbling just under the surface, and Ji-won stews in frustration, wondering why her cousin hasn't cracked under the pressure and confessed everything yet. After school, Seo Woo finds herself torn. That strange dream has made things feel awkward, and she debates whether she should even go see Won Hyuk. But the thought that he might be waiting for her wins out. Her feet start moving automatically, carrying her in the familiar direction of their hideout. Before she gets far, a sharp voice calls out. It's her cousin, Ji-won, blocking her path. With a knowing look, Ji-won points out that Seo Woo is walking in the complete opposite direction of home, sarcastically guessing she isn't visiting Won Hyuk. Ji-won smirks, knowing she's cornered her cousin. She accuses Seo Woo of sleeping over at his place again, guessing it must be with a guy who lives alone. She remarks that it must be nice for Seo Woo, not having to walk on eggshells like she does at home. A quick memory flashes of Seo Woo buying him clothes, claiming he was just a friend. Ji-won turns, sarcastically suggesting she just stay there again tonight. But Seo Woo shuts her down, firmly stating that she isn't going there today. Later that night, as Ji-won lies in bed on her phone, the door creaks open and Seo Woo enters. Seo Woo cautiously asks why her cousin is acting so differently, pointing out that she used to walk on eggshells around her. Ji-won immediately fires back, telling her to just sleep over at that guy's place. When Seo Woo quietly admits it's not comfortable there either, Ji-won snaps. She sits up, clarifying that this isn't about Seo Woo's comfort. She's telling her to go there even if it's uncomfortable. She just wants her gone. Seo Woo stands over her cousin, who is lying in bed, glued to her phone. She asks how Ji-won knew what was inside the paper bag, remembering how she deliberately knocked it over earlier. Ji-won plays dumb, asking what she's talking about all of a sudden. But internally, she starts to panic, wondering if Seo Woo has finally noticed something. She braces herself for another fight. Instead, Seo Woo just says it was obvious because the contents were completely out in the open. She then sits down on the end of the bed. Seo Woo sits on the bed and asks Ji-won why she always assumes the worst, pointing out the guy could just be a friend. At her desk, Ji-won is completely thrown off, wondering why this is coming up now. Seo Woo then reminds her that when she was close with Ju Won Hyuk, no one would have jumped to those conclusions. This hits a nerve, and Ji-won snaps, asking what she's babbling about. But Seo Woo presses, questioning how she can let a guy into her home and just call him friend. Ji-won insists it's not like that, but Seo Woo just dismissively states she doesn't care. With the conversation over, Ji-won aggressively yanks the blanket over her head, shutting everything out. Defeated, Seo-woo slumps into her chair at the desk, and a heavy silence falls over the room. But Ji-won can't sleep. The darkness under the covers takes her back to the bunker. She remembers a gentle hand stroking her cheek as she slept, a quiet moment of connection with Won-hyuk. It feels like a lifetime away from the cold tension now filling the air between her and her cousin. The memory pulls her back to the bunker, where she's gently tending to a cut on Won-hyuk's face. Once she's done, she looks at him and bluntly asks why he can't look people in the eye. He seems confused, so she suddenly leans in closer to prove her point. Just as she thought, he flinches and turns his head away. She tells him he's supposed to make eye contact when talking and offers to help him. But Won-hyuk just brushes her off, sadly stating there's no reason for him to look at anyone. Not giving up, Seo-woo issues a challenge. If Won-hyuk can look into her eyes for 10 seconds, she'll grant him a wish. He gives it a shot but fails almost immediately. She encourages him, pointing out he still made it to 5 seconds. Dejected, Won-hyuk doesn't think he can do any better. But as he looks at her, he admits this is the first time he's looked at anyone for so long and realizes she's actually pretty handsome. Seo-woo then insists he's even better looking than Ji Seung-chan, the popular guy from their school. Won-hyuk tells her to stop, clearly flustered by the compliment. But Seo-woo insists she's serious, saying nobody knows how handsome he is because he never looks at them. Overwhelmed, Won-hyuk covers his blushing face. Seo-woo smirks, privately noting how he always falls for her teasing, turning bright red every time. She reminisces fondly about those simpler days in the bunker. But the sweet memory is shattered when a hand suddenly grabs her wrist, snapping her back to reality. It's her cousin, Ji-won, staring at her intently. Undeterred, Seo-woo tries to tease him again, asking what he'll do now. But this time, Won-hyuk is done playing games. He snatches her hand out of the air, his grip surprisingly strong. Looming over her, he flips the script entirely, telling her to finish what she started. Seo-woo freezes, totally caught off guard by his sudden boldness. He questions why she stopped, a dark look in his eyes. Before she can react, he pushes her down onto the cot. Shocked, Seo-woo gasps as he pins her in place. Seo-woo finds herself walking through the hazy, silent halls of her high school. It's a dream she keeps having, and she questions why it won't leave her alone. She remembers deliberately skipping school the day before, trying to avoid this exact feeling. A voice from her past echoes in her head, asking if things now are the same as when they were kids. Troubled by the question, she reaches a classroom, slides the door open and steps inside, determined to face the memory head-on. The classroom door opens to a painful memory. Inside, Seo-woo sees herself and Won-hyuk looking happy and relaxed, laughing together amongst their classmates. For a fleeting moment, they were just like everyone else. But this sweet vision is a knife to the heart for the Seo-woo watching from the doorway. Her hand clenches into a tight fist as she stands frozen, overwhelmed by the sight. A painful question fills her mind. Why did their lives have to be torn apart? Why was this cruel fate reserved only for them? The memory continues. A classmate playfully calls Seo-woo out on her chapped lips, tossing a new lip balm onto her desk when she jokes about it. But their light-hearted banter is shattered when Won-hyuk walks in. The classmate's friendly vibe vanishes in an instant. He angrily confronts Won-hyuk, shoving a phone in his face and telling him to take a good look at himself. Staring at the screen, Won-hyuk's face darkens as he curses under his breath. Whatever he saw on that phone has completely ruined him. The memory shifts again. Seo-woo watches her classmates joke around about a lip tint, their easy laughter a sharp contrast to her inner turmoil. She desperately wants the thoughts to leave her head. Why couldn't people see her and Won-hyuk the same way they saw everyone else? Her spiraling thoughts are cut short when Seo-woo calls her name from the doorway. He tells her the science teacher wants to see her in the faculty office. Seo-woo freezes. The science teacher is Won-hyuk's homeroom teacher. Suddenly, a feeling of dread begins to settle in.